You have arrived at the ET Newsroom with your host, Joanna Summerscales. Welcome. Be prepared. Be prepared. Buckle up. You are in for an interesting ride.
Hello and welcome to another ETN Files interview. I'm really excited to have as my guest this evening, and this interview was recorded on the 8th of August, Lionsgate Day 2021. And I'm excited to have the family Alcala, Mum Deborah and brothers Aaron and Anthony. But before we get on to the interview, another incident happened on the 8th, and that is the passing of the great Paul Theodore Hellyer, ex-Minister of Defence for Canada. And in his retirement, once he had found out the truth of the ET issue, he was never shy or short of speaking out about the truth of the ET element. And he was an incredible man. I was very fortunate to have him appear on my MASH Files radio show for a short interview. So my condolences to the family of Paul Hellyer's people. We shall certainly miss him. He was a giant of a man and a gentle soul. So thank you, Paul, for all you've done and for his family supporting him in the work that he felt called to share. And now on to our interview. I wanted to just share a little bit with you of something that Anthony wrote, who approached me first early July. And in the email, he says, I have some incredible things happening to me on a regular basis now. And I'm coming out more and more and wanting to speak about it. He finds it helpful. He said, but when I do tell my story, most people either think I'm full of crap or just plain crazy attention seeking, like I'd want that kind of attention. He said, so more or less now, I just focus on my 5-year-old who tells me that Spider-Man comes out of her closet. And also that when she was talking about that, he too was having his own visitations with an insectoid being. More on that later. So Mum, Deborah, has also been a lifelong experiencer, it seems, as well as something of a medium. And what is very interesting about the family is that not only have they become aware of another segment of a close family, so cousins that they are just getting to know, and in that getting to know, they have found that they too are experiencers of one stripe or another. So that is fascinating. And also what is amazing is that they all seem to say that it's only been since about 2016, the last 5 or 6 years, that they all seem to have woken up, as they say, become really aware of what's been happening to them and what is going on. Their stories, each one of them, are pretty amazing. So I hope you're going to enjoy this interview. I certainly did. Stay tuned.
True.
How lovely to see a beautiful face.
Oh, thank you.
Deborah, do you feel comfortable telling us a little bit about your experiences?
I'm going to tell you, I think the very beginning, before Anthony was even born or any of my babies were born, and I was about 4 years old, that I can recall, very little. My mother got mad at me because I was writing under her brand new table with my crayon. So she sent me to my room and closed the door. And I'm sitting in my room, and I remember looking at my hands and just saying, why are these moving this way? What am I? And I kept like thinking, like, what is this? You know, what is this? And why is it doing this? And it was just confounding to me at that age. So I know I had fallen asleep for a split second because I was mad. I'd been crying. And I opened my eyes, and there is a figure of a woman in front of me, and she had a long flowing gown. It was white, almost transparent. She had long dark hair and very light complected, and she was floating about a foot off the ground, and she was coming towards me. I jumped up, ran through her screaming and running into the living room, and my mother's like, what's wrong with you? You know, I was just like, I was just couldn't believe what I just saw. And that seemed to be the very beginning of anything I ever encountered as far as a spirit. Now, I didn't know that's what she was. And I'm thinking, am I dreaming? Is this, what was that? You know, what did I feel when I ran through her? It was a weird experience. So fast forward, because I don't remember pretty much any of my life. It's a weird thing. I remember bits and pieces, and the things I remember are the encounters that I had. But all the other things, like going to school and friends and things like that, I don't connect with any of that. You know, I just pretty much never have. It's like I don't have memories of those things, but I do have memories of the significant things that I've seen.
Did you have any sense of whether it was a kindly thing, or was it just a shock? Because gosh, how did that person suddenly appear in my, and then that she's off the floor? And was there any experiences you ran through her?
You know, it was dread. It was fear. And the thing I forgot to say is I have seen her throughout my life. And I feel like myself being paralyzed, like I'm dreaming, but I'm not dreaming, I'm awake. And she's calling me to her. She's trying to pull me to her. And I keep running from her all the time, you know, and I can feel her in a room. I can feel her on the stairway. It's like all the way through my life, probably until my 40s, I had these experiences, but it didn't feel good. And it didn't feel, I was terrified, you know, so that was my experience with her.
And could that be ancestral, or could it be something to do with the house or the properties? But maybe, I'm thinking maybe not, if it was happening that much into your life, because of course you will likely change properties by that, you know, during those years.
Yes, we did. My mother lived there for about 45 years, but I moved when I was 19. And I got married, moved out when I was 19 years old. So she followed me wherever I went, basically. And I never talked to her. And it's a funny thing because I never thought about it in those terms. I just thought, oh, I'm having nightmares of the same lady all the time.
Right. Right. Do you think in hindsight it could have been anything like a guide that was coming to support you, but because it's the unknown and because really the dread of the energy being sent by her, or just your sensing of fear of the unknown? I just wondered if you could differentiate.
So funny, I asked you the same question.
Yeah, that's what my son asked me last night, and because we were discussing it a little bit, and I said, that's so weird. I've never thought about it that way, that she, now in hindsight, I look at her more like she was a guide, or she was a spirit trying to communicate, but I was so fearful and didn't understand until
just recently.
Literally, like about 5 or 6 years ago is when I connected the fact of what I am. And I can go back and look at all of those incidents that have happened. One that's totally shocking to even me. I'm still shocked every time that happens to me, but where I connect with the spirit so strong that I see physical spirit. But yeah, I think back in those days, maybe she was the first spirit that I ever visually saw. And maybe she had something to communicate or some way, because she's always pulling me, always trying to pull me. I could feel her energy pulling me to her, but I just would rebel against that. You know, I didn't want anything to do with it. And I was just terrified every single time. But I was always in a paralyzed state where I couldn't move. Yeah, hindsight, I think now that I'm starting to connect the dots this late in my life, I finally probably understand more about it. And it's very cool, you know, what was happening way early on.
You know, you indicated your hands moving on your mum's lovely table those years back. I'm getting the impression of sort of an automatic writing kind of scenario. Am I picking that up correctly?
I used to like to write. What's funny is I did automatic writing. I tried that out one time, and it shocked me and frightened me at the same time. And it was amazing at the same time, because the following day I met someone that writing made sense about. Yeah, people come to me all the time on the streets.
It's crazy.
In the stores. It doesn't matter where I am, they will start talking to me and not let me go. And I know that there's a spirit close at hand for them. So I'll end up doing a reading like on the street or in a store or at a funeral. At a funeral.
And it's usually like life-changing too for them. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Now, I had wanted to tell you about experience that I had when I was, this was in the 60s, or early 70s. I think it was 1970, 1971, right before Tony was born. And I was very young, but I used to go to a youth center. And I would go there after school, we'd play pool, we'd hang out, try to keep the kids off the street, because I lived in kind of a rough neighborhood. And they asked me if I wanted to go to a picnic. And I said, sure. This is my counselors. And I said, sure, because we never went anywhere, and I said, can I take my brother and my sister? Yeah, you can. And they were younger than me. So we go to the youth center in the morning, and everybody gathers around. There's about 15 buses that load these kids up. And we go to LA, which I didn't know was LA at the time because I'd never been anywhere past my own street. My mom didn't know we were going, we went. And
what sort of age group would you be, Deborah?
I would be, I had 20 when I was 18. I must have been around 15 or 16, somewhere around there. I would say 15, more like 15. So, we go to this park and everybody gets off the bus. Everybody's walking and we're walking and walking and walking. Like, they're like, I don't even know. There must have been hundreds of people. And I looked at the people next to me because they're all my group. And I said, where are we going? And my counselor said, just keep walking. We're going to have a picnic. And I was like, well, my brother and sister are so young, they can't walk a far distance. He said, just keep walking. So we're walking, and next to me is a boy that he's older than me. So let's say that I'm 14, 15 years old. He looked like maybe he was 17, 18, blonde hair, blue eyes. And we're walking and he's talking to me. And I talked to him because I trusted everybody back in the day. And he's just asking me questions about why am I here? And I don't remember a lot of it. And he said, are you thirsty? And I said, yeah. And he goes, let's go to this cafe. So we go in, my brother and my sister are there. We somehow get drinks, like soda. And he's asking me questions. I never asked him anything. What's your name or where do you come from or nothing? It just wasn't, I don't know. It never occurred to me, but I answered his questions. So we continue walking and we get to the park. Everybody was kind of eating and whatever. And I didn't really feel like eating. So we sat on a bench, and right in front of me, it was a big park, and my brother and my sister were playing on the swings that were only maybe about 20 feet away from me, 20 steps away from me. And so I'm watching them, but he's talking to me on the bench. And all of a sudden I see behind my brother and sister just dirt flying up in the air and smoke and just like pandemonium, like it was loud popping sounds. And I was like, what's that? And he said, it's going to be okay. Do what I say. It'll be fine. And I'm like, no. And so I'm like, I can't believe what's happening. You can't see the sky even. It's just a wall of dust and smoke and people just running. And so he picks me up, takes me to the bus, puts me through the window. He said, stay here. I will get your brother and sister. Stay here. And I said, okay. And I'm watching him, and he runs over, he picks up my brother and my sister, puts them through the window. He said, stay here. You will be fine. Okay. Now the whole place is tear gas going off. We're getting burned. Cops are hitting the door. Well, what had happened, this is a very famous Chicano movement, riot. Get up on the internet, just put in Chicano riot, and Ruben Salazar worked for the LA Times. He was shot in the head with a tear gas canister when he sat at the Silver Dollar Bar. He was reporting on the Chicano movement, and which I didn't know we were involved in. And that set off some of the guys, the Chicano groups, tried to rob a liquor store. And this is where it all started: riot gear, tear gas, guns going off. So they're being pushed towards the 15 buses, rocking the buses, not letting us off. The cops were just, it was horrible. The guys were taking their shirts off and giving it to us to put our face in. The tear gas is burning everybody. My brother and sister are little. I mean, it was horrible. Finally, they they cleared up enough of the road to let the buses go. A couple other incidents had happened that were pretty bad. You know, I had to lay over my brother because a cop wanted to belly club him, and my brother was about 6 years old. It was horrible. Never been in anything like that. That was, you know, it was crazy. So I go home, you know, we walk home from the youth center, and my mother's hysterical. You know, she doesn't know what happened to us. We're all burned on our faces. Everything was crazy. And I go back to the youth center the following day, and I'm talking to the people there. And I said, if it wasn't for the guy that was with me, that put me through the window and put the boy, you know, Janice, my sister and my brother, through the window, we probably wouldn't be here. We would have gotten stampeded. And they said, what guy? And I said, you know, the guy that he's walking with me the whole time, blonde haired, blue eyes, you know. They're like, there was no guy, no blonde haired, blue eyed guy. Now, I don't connect literally until probably a year ago. I was in a Chicano movement. Okay, they're all look like me. Okay, nobody was blonde haired, blue eyes. What's a blonde haired, blue eye going to be walking? Never.
Just talking to you, right?
Just talking to me. I feel he was an angel of some sort, and he must have been, because he stayed with me the entire time. Like, he knew what was going to happen, and that was like, okay.
And then fast forward to my abduction, and I'm meeting a Nordic, you know, blonde hair, blue eyed, beautiful woman. It's just, you know, how many coincidences are there? You know, just sort of weird. I think they guide us. I think they help us out.
Sometimes when you have a pivotal role, whether you're aware of it or not, you are kept from harm. I'm just starting a story of an English lady who's also a lifelong medium experiencer and had some amazing things, but she's been at the brink of death about 9 times. And about 4 or 5 of those, she was dead and brought back to life. I mean, good heavens.
Wow. Guys, well, you know, it's so amazing, because when I started to understand more of my mediumship role, I started thinking back, and, you know, there were so many times when I should have died. I went up on because I didn't drive freeway. So I went on the off ramp of a freeway twice, 2 different times, no cars, none. No cars, which astounded me, because I was able to get on the freeway, make a turn around, and go right back down the ramp. You know, I would do things like that. And then when I was about 11, I had a counselor, a school counselor, that would get me jobs. I was 11 or 12, and he ended up being somebody who raped me at that age. God. But now the thing that I think back to is, we were in a field in his car, nobody around. And he even told me, there's nobody that can help you, you know, and nobody could. But so many people died at the hands of somebody who did that. You know, I was lucky to not have died, you know, on that level. So there was always something going on. You know, I was in a marriage that was very abusive. The boys went through that as well. You know, he broke my eardrum. It was bad. He had a knife to my throat, but always something would get me out of those situations. It was just a weird thing, you know. So I've experienced so much, so I can see things in other people. It's because it's almost like you have to go through those in order to recognize it in somebody else. When I was in college, I had been in a music class, because I hear you're in music, that you're a musician.
I'm not a musician, but I can tell you a little bit about that, how I've been drawn into the music side of things.
Oh, yes, definitely. Because
Yes.
I am too. So I think that's pretty awesome. But a girl that was in the classroom with me, she was so beautiful. I call her a swan, because she was very tall and long neck, and she's just like very regal, so beautiful. And she was in my voice class for probably a good part of a year. And I'd never talked to her. Her name was Suzanne, but I never talked to her. I just always saw her. And one day she came in and sat down, and I decided to go sit right next to her. And during the course, the teacher's talking, but I leaned into her and I said, "Were you raped?" And she started crying. She said, "How did you know?" And literally, she was raped the night before. Like I could pick somebody out and say, "This is happening to you," or "This has happened to you." but I was kind of shocked, like, what? A lot of times I didn't know that was even coming out of my mouth. It was kind of a weird thing, you know. So that would happen in school, and all the way along my life, there was always something going on, always. So I'm telling my sons, when I was in a long-term relationship, we all lived together, and my boyfriend and I were going to buy a house together, but it fell through, so we decided to go to Vegas. And he's got this little yellow car, you know, this is like in the 80s. And we go to Vegas, but we only had like $300 on us, right? And we're driving to Vegas, and it's pitch black dark. It's in the middle of the night. His car starts breaking down, and there is nothing but a gully next to you, so you cannot make a turn. It's just straight. And in the middle of desert, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nothing. So he turns off the road, and there's this old shed that's probably been there 100 years, all broken apart, dark. I said, "Oh my gosh, we're going to die." And he goes, all I need is a screwdriver. And I said, "Okay, all I need is some kind of a board or a stick to kill the person that's going to come try to kill us." Okay, because they, you know, I said, "That's all." And so I get out and I'm looking, and a stretch limo, a white stretch limo, pulls in, and he's like, "Oh my God." And I said, "Oh my God, here we go." I said, somebody's going to kill us, you know? So I'm just looking for anything I can to hit somebody with if they come near me, you know? The guy gets out, and he's a little short guy, a little short Italian. He's got that Italian accent. And he's like, "Hey, what's the matter? What's the matter?" Da, da, da. And, you know, my boyfriend's like, "Well, I just need like a screwdriver." He says, "Oh, no problem." And he calls to somebody to get out of the car. Big guy gets out of the car, goes and gets his toolbox and gives it to Mike. And Mike's like, "Okay." And he Mickey Mouses the car together, and the car starts. And I was like, okay, you know. And so they get in the car, they get into their stretch limo. We say thank you, get in our car, they pull out, we pull out. And I said, catch up to them, because I want to say thank you one more time. We're on the road, no car, no limo, no car, no nothing. We go to state line. The car makes it into state line. There's one parking space, it dies in the parking space. So we're like, holy smoke. I said, "How much is it going to cost, you know, to do it, you know, to fix it?" He said, "Probably about $300 what we brought." I said, "Oh, great. Okay." So we go in, the lady at the counter says, "Hey, you know, she's talking to the guy in front of me, and she says, "There's only one room, 2 beds." And he says, "I don't want 1 room, 2 beds. I want 1 room, 1 bed." And he was arguing with her. I said, I'll take it, you know, so he let us have it. So we put our stuff down. Mike gives me like $20 and says, "Here, go play whatever." And I went to the pit, and I asked the lady there, I said, "What machine's going to hit? I need money." And she goes, "Go to the one in the corner." I said, "Okay." I start putting the money in, and I am not even kidding. This is when real money came out. Okay, the big coins came out.
Yeah.
I hit $1,600 right off the bat. And then I started playing the one on the other side. I'm playing that one while they're getting the money for this one. And I hit $16 on that side. I came back over here. I'm hitting money after money, 400, 800, 500. I couldn't stop winning. My arm was tired. People were all gathered. I'm like, I don't understand. You know, it was like a magical night. And
Wow.
It seems that we always get what we needed to get by. It's always
I mean,
get by.
that's beautiful. That is such a fantastic story. I love it. That's gorgeous.
now,
Well, our house mortgage one time actually got lost, and the bank didn't know about it. Didn't know about the house, and we didn't have to pay rent for like a year.
I tried to pay rent, but they said you don't
They
exist.
would return they said your house doesn't exist, and they would return the check. We're like, okay, well, this is weird. They'll catch on, but they never come on.
Because I kind of wanted to talk to you about what's happened to me like in the past 5 or 6 years, which is so significant because I understand more. There was a time in the early 90s where I visited a cemetery every day for almost a year. I don't know what I was looking for or anything. I just was compelled to go to the cemetery in the kids section. I went over and over and over every cemetery, and I was in outside sales, so I could go to different territories, and I hit all the cemeteries. So I have a thing about cemeteries. I want to be near them, you know, I want to walk through them, and that's kind of hard on boyfriends, you know, they don't understand.
Right.
But I've always had that fascination with it. So I never connected anything, and then actually about a year went by and it stopped. where I didn't feel the need to go. So whatever somebody was looking for. Now, I didn't know back then what I was. I didn't understand being a medium or connecting with people on the other side. And I'm sure I've talked to people, spirits of some kind, not knowing that it was the spirit that I was talking to. But now that I know, I've had some incredible things happen. And it's almost as if I talk a lot in my head, and you have to separate what you're thinking, your thoughts, from your spirit's thoughts. And I've been trying to do that more often. And so I have opened the door to spirits that are white light, to come through, and that was fine. So I literally had something happen about right before COVID hit. So it was right before March. I have a boyfriend I've had for 2 years, but I never like to stay at his house. Okay. I just like to be in my own place, So I ended up going to stay at his house for one time, and he has no kids, nobody else, just him and me. I'm laying down and he's asleep, and I'm turned this way at the edge of the bed. Now and I take Ambien because I can't sleep. I'm very insomniac, very much, and very claustrophobic on top of that. So I always have to have the edge of something or be able to get out, And so I'm laying there, and I close my eyes just for a brief second, and I see a green glowing, like a small half of a crown. And it's green and it's glowing and it's moving across my eye, my closed eyes, and it clicks. I hear it click, it clicks into something. And I was like, what was that? Okay, that's an Ambien kind of trip, it's like, what's going on with that? So I don't understand it, but I thought that was really weird and that was really cool at the same time. So now it's like I fall asleep. I look over and I see a clock, and it said 2:45. And I'm thinking, great. Now I'm up 2:45 in the morning. I can't sleep. I'm at my boyfriend's house. I don't want to be here. I kind of want to be home. This is going to suck. And so I kind of look over again, but I'm thinking my eyes are open, but I'm pretty sure my eyes were closed. And I see a figure of a man that's standing right next to me. So the edge of my bed, he's standing right here. And I'm looking over, he had blue jeans on. He had an athletic build, kind of like a shirt with a collar, but short sleeves. His hair was parted. He was Caucasian, and he had blood dripping down the side of his temple. I said to him, what happened? And he said, car crash. And he pointed over me, okay, in a certain direction. And I said, are you dead? And he said, yes. I said, okay. Now I look over to my right, his left, and there's a heavyset guy, old man, dripping blood. And I said to him, please don't drip blood on the carpet because Morgan's going to get mad. Okay, and the guy says nothing. I look over to my left, and there's a little boy with dark hair, and he runs through the wall. And I was like, this is weird. Okay, so now I wake up, and I sit up, and I was like, and it's morning. And I look over and I'm thinking, there's no clock there. There's no clock there. Like, what happened? Like, what just happened? And I tell my boyfriend, okay, and my boyfriend's like already kind of on the edge with me being what I am. Okay. He's just like,
he's not really.
Yeah, he's not into this, So I tell him all about it. After I tell him the whole story, his response to me is, does that mean you're never going to come over and spend the night again? I'm like, really? This whole amazing thing, that's what you. So then I come home. I tell Tony right away what happened, and I said, I've never experienced anything like this in my life. So now I'm in the bathroom, I'm blow drying my hair, and Tony's like, Mom, you need to come in here right now. And he shows me something he found on the internet that said a man dies at 2:45 in the morning. He's local, okay? And Tony's like, Mom, is this the guy? I said, well, I don't even know. I said, I don't have a name.
They didn't have a picture, nothing yet.
Yeah, they didn't have a picture. They didn't have anything. Happened. So I decided to just say, okay, maybe I'll go look and see if I can find a name, whatever. And I tried it, couldn't find anything. Days go on. Now, if a spirit wants me, they will do this. Hey, it's like they're tapping on you. Like when somebody's tapping, like, Mom. That's what a spirit does to me when they want my attention.
And you can see it in her eyes too. Like you can see she's distracted, like she's just sort of zooming in on. It's weird. I see it.
So all that the next day, he's telling me, keep looking. So finally I look, and I find a little more information because they're not giving me anything in the newspaper, the news, nothing. It just says man 33 dies. It's a local man.
Oh.
And so I decide just to keep looking. And I come up with a name. His name is Joshua Searcy. Okay. And I'm like, I need a photo. Is this him? Is this him? A couple days go by some more. Now there's a Facebook where the family has posted his photo. And I went, this is him. This is him. His name is Joshua Searcy. This is him. I know his face. I know what he looks like. I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? Okay. Because he's pushing me to contact the family.
And she was all like, should I do it? Should I do it? They're gonna be mad? Are they gonna yell at me? She was like, I was like, what you think? You know?
I couldn't. I was indecisive, you know, but when spirit wants me, they want me to do something, they make me do it. So I contact the family through Facebook and I said, you know, I'm so sorry, you know, but I have a message from Joshua, you know, if you want to hear more, here's my phone number. This is my full name, you know, so I'm not a quack, you know, kind of thing. And a couple of days later, I'd gone to the bank. I'm sitting in the bank parking lot and I get a phone call and it is his sister-in-law. And her name is Cassie Searcy. And I said, listen, I'm so sorry, you know, for your loss, but I have to tell you what I've experienced. And I gave her the story of everything that happened. And she listened intently. She's like, oh, giving me nothing. Okay, nothing, not a yes or hey. So I thought, okay. And he's telling me, tell her about the green light, tell her about the green light. And the last thing I said to her, because you know, she's like, well, thank you very much. And I said, okay. I said, wait, I got to tell you something. And I told her about the green light. When I told her about the green light, she burst out crying. And I start crying, you know, and she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She said, ever since he passed, from the day he passed, there has been a green glowing light in every photo we've ever taken. It doesn't matter if we're at home.
Different cameras.
It's different cameras.
People taking it.
Everywhere. She goes, we have photos of these things. The green light. I said, well, the green light is significant for him. And so now she said, can I have my mom call you? Can his wife call you? Yes, yes. Long story short, I talked to his mother. I talked to his wife. And the mother wanted to make an appointment with me to see her and for me to meet her. And I did. Bottom line is I met with the mother. I find out the green light is her favorite. Green is her favorite color. So she showed me photos. They sent me photos. He was a lineman working for SCE. So he gets up on the poles. He did a very dangerous job.
Yeah.
So she goes, I have to show you what I had made. And she had a big statue cut out in metal with a green light shine theme all the way through. So when I talked to the mother, she explained to me everything. Now, and I talked to his brother and he's like, I can't believe you're saying these things, because I would tell them different things that he would tell me. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm young in this. I don't know for sure. Okay, if this sounds right, it sounds right. But I don't know if I'm saying things that are just in my head or if he's telling me, but this is what I feel like he's telling me to tell you. And so that was an amazing time. Now, fast forward a little bit, I have an experience with his wife where she wants me to come to her house. Joshua doesn't let go. He stays with me even through I got COVID and I went to the hospital for almost 10 days. He's there. He's still hanging around. And I'm thinking, why are you hanging around? Like, I delivered the message, like, why? So I get out, but I have text messages of all the times I've texted the mother, the daughter, the wife. And she said, could you come to my house after you feel better? Yes. I go to the house. Now, Joshua kept telling me, you'll have your answers when you go to my house. Because I asked him, what happened? Like, what happened? Because they show the scene and he rammed into a truck at a stoplight that he died. It was instant. But I said, there's no skid marks. There's no nothing. Did you fall asleep? Did you do this on purpose? Like, what happened? You know? And he said, you'll have your answers when you go there. And so I go to his house. I've never done a reading at all, somebody asking me to do it at that moment. But when I walked in, the wife wanted me to go to a bedroom. And I said, I want to go to the kitchen. And she said, well, but this is our room. I said, but he wants me to go to the kitchen. And she said, okay. So I go to the kitchen. I walk back to the back, straight to the wall. And there's some beautiful writings on it. And then there are a bunch of wine bottles. And I said, what's the significance of the wine bottle? And she said, oh my God, our last wine bottle that we were going to drink together is on the night that he passed away. And she said, we drank wine every single night. We had so much fun in this kitchen. So all this stuff starts happening. I said, that was significant for him. Can we sit down? And we start talking, told her everything. And I told her about the man. And she said, oh no. She goes, what did he look like? And I explained it to her, what he looked like, the beard and the hair and the older man, kind of heavy. She said, hold on. And she goes to the room and she gets a photo. And she said, is this him? And I went, that's him. This is the man that was dripping blood. So the little boy signified that they've been friends lifelong since they were little, and that he approved of the fact that she was getting comfort from his best friend. So that was my answer. I couldn't connect all the spirits that came through with him. I couldn't connect what was happening.
Oh my goodness. I mean, what a story.
They still contact her, and
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They really,
Powerful. So have you had occasion to be at your boyfriend's house and seen anybody else there?
I don't see
no, she hasn't gone back
I don't see
yet.
Okay, okay.
No.
I don't stay there very often, but no, that has not happened to me as yet. Normally, it's somebody on the street. It's somebody in a store. Like I went to Walmart and I gave a reading there. It's just things, that
Just happens randomly.
yeah, they come to me in that respect.
Is there an element of ET here?
Well, you have the
experience on the freeway.
no the house.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Okay. Yes. Okay. When we moved into the place that we're in now, we've been here 21 years, but we lived in a 2-story unit instead of the flat unit. In that unit, I could feel something around. I could always feel when there's something around, and I don't know how to differentiate except for what they look like, right? And so I'm laying on the couch and I'm just relaxing because I've been doing work all day, and I'm watching TV, which is forward ahead of me, and there's a little lamp with the table behind me, and all of a sudden I could feel that thing that I would get when I would become paralyzed, and I couldn't move. And this has happened several times in my lifetime that were huge. So I feel this like an energy, and I see a man. It looks like a man, but he's very tall, very, very thin. He had black pants on, white shirt rolled up, and he came around in front of my TV, but I couldn't see his head. I could just see his body. And then I could feel he walked in front of, on the side of me and sat next to me on the couch. I could feel the couch bend down. And the thing that I said to him was, let me see your face. And he bent over and looked at me, and he was the most beautiful looking complexion. He looked Asian because he had these big eyes that were just almond eyes and dark hair. And then he sat back up again. And I was like, okay. And then now he releases me, right? So now I'm like, whoa. So now a couple of days go by and I could feel him following me. He's following me throughout the house. Finally, he's going up the stairs with me when I'm carrying my laundry basket. And I said, please, you have to stop, okay? Because I know you're there, but please stop, and after that, it stopped. So that was a thing, okay? I also had something happen in this Montana house. I was laying on the bed in the upstairs, and in the middle of the day, and I had like mirrors on closets, and it was a pretty big room, very cool. And I'm just laying there, and all of a sudden, here comes that paralyzation again. It always is the same way. I can feel it coming on, and I'm paralyzed now. But the only thing I can tell you is I felt as if something laid into my soul. Like they sat on the bed. I could feel them sitting on the bed and then just laying like into me. And I pushed through that and came out screaming. It's like I needed to get past that. So there was always something happening
At that house especially.
Of something. Okay, I would see things like, I'll tell you something that happened just recently. I'm driving on a major freeway. Mm-hmm. There's no way to get off. Okay, it's 5 o'clock traffic, and it's that kind of slower traffic. And I look up and I look over. It's almost as if they called to me. Okay, like how am I going to know that they're there? there's blue sky, big white cloud here, big white cloud there. They are miles away from each other. Big fluffy white cloud, okay, on each side, but nothing in between. And in between it, I see like a conveyor belt is all I can think of. It looked like a conveyor belt, and I made a drawing of it because it looks like this. I had drawn a picture because it had a distinct kind of a design, and it went from one cloud to the other, and it's as if it was moving. And I'm looking around like, does anybody see this? I mean, I can't, there's no way I can pull over. I couldn't grab a camera, there's nothing, but I'm watching this most beautiful sight of something. And later I figured it could have been some type of a spaceship, some type of something, but it looked straight on the bottom, went from one cloud to the other, and it was moving. And it was just incredible. But I've seen orbs, I've seen things in the sky where it's like, hey, what's that? You know, it's just incredible. But all my life, I've seen little bits and pieces of things, just not knowing what they are, or, you know, and, you know, so yeah.
And do you feel, because you were saying the sort of the last sort of 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years, things have changed, you know, your awareness has become more embedded about, you know, your faculties. And it seems to me that your faculties have been developing, and what I think clairvoyance and maybe clairaudience and the paralyzing element. I'm wondering in that, with their tall, beautiful man, was there any communication?
I feel like he's been around me before. I feel that he's been around me somehow before. But all I remember was he had a sense of beauty about him that I'd never seen. Something that was, you just don't see that beauty. You know, and especially in a man. I mean, there's really good looking men, you know, that kind of thing. But his complexion was so perfect. It was so perfect.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
The communication was kindness. That he was
lovely,
kind, you know, and that I didn't have any reason to be afraid. So I wasn't afraid of him. I just was annoyed by him, you know, hanging around, you know. But there was nothing to fear about him, but just how he walked around, you know, and came and sat down next to me. He wanted me to see him in that form for some reason.
Yeah. And do you think that things have changed for you then, Deborah, in as much as you are doing more with your gifts or your abilities? Do you think they've developed?
Tenfold.
Oh, they have developed. Yeah.
Tenfold.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen and doing things now that I never did when I was younger. There was no thought about that. It was just like everyday life, like, oh, okay. You know, there's no connection. I now am fully aware.
It's because you like our religion.
Yeah, you know, I'm just fully aware of everything that is coming around me. I'm fully aware when something is near me, where I was never aware of that before.
And do you have awareness of that happening in your family, Deborah, from your mom, your grandparents?
Well, my mother seems to have something to do with mediumship as well, that she has no knowledge about being, and she'll say things and do things that you just don't understand. Like, how did you know that? How did you know that? You know, and she's a cranky woman, you know what I mean? Like, she's cranky, she's a pain, you know, but, and she's 92 now, 93.
Yeah, we have some strong genes in our
Yeah, we have
family.
some very strong genes. Now, my niece apparently grew up around the pyramids, and so there is some type of something happening there in our ancestors on my dad's side, because we are Native American and we are Italian and Greek.
So great, powerful mix.
Yeah. So I know that has something to do with that. And I'll tell you something, I've had experiences where their dad, my ex-husband, stayed my friend and my soulmate until the day he passed, and experiences where he has come through and taken me to see what's on the other side.
Wow.
Yeah, through it's just an amazing thing. And he does come to me quite a bit, but he dropped the floor out from under me and showed me the beauty of the world, you know, the beauty of space, because I wanted to see. I kept saying, I want to see. And he said, I'll take you, and he did.
He Supermaned her.
He Superman me.
Which Superman was one of his favorite movies,
It
too.
was
It's like
one of his
totally
favorite
Oh, what fun. What fun. And
He grabbed me from behind and held on to me. And then he whispered in my ear because I said, show me. And he said, I'll show you. And that's the whole floor dropped out. And there was something that happened when I woke up in the room that I was in. It was a little tiny room, and he was sitting in a chair in the corner. And I ran to him. I'm like, Steve, oh my gosh, we miss you so much. We miss you so much, And then that's when I was standing up, and he came behind me and then just like wrapped his arms around me, like to hold on to me.
And so
then,
where did he, I have to ask you, where did he actually take you? I mean, did he take you to Earth as well, or was it actually all outside space?
No, it was actually just space, but it was colors that were, I can't even describe the colors. And as everything dropped away, the flooring dropped away, we were flying. It was no way else to say that. We flew. And he showed me what I had wanted to know. Where are you? Where do you go? Kind of thing. And he's just showing me the sky is the limit. I can go wherever I want to go.
Did he show you a location where he was, or was he implying that he was, in every atom?
Yes. So he's, I think to me, he was telling me, I am everywhere. I am everything. I'm energy forever, and that he is okay. And he's come to me a couple times.
Yeah, he's very strong here.
He's very strong here.
There's been definitely all kinds of things he's done here.
Yeah, we've had a lot of experiences. And then I went to a casino one time, and I'll tell you what was really super weird is I went to a casino one time, and I'm coming out of this one area, and these two girls that almost look identical work there. And they came right in front of me, stood there and said, hello. And they both tilted their head to one side at the same time and said, hello. And I said, hello. And they just looked at me, and I said, okay. I said, it's nice to see you, but it's as if they knew me in some way, and the way that they would say hello and tilting their head it was just freaky, So I think this combination of having beings, having experiences with, ship, having people coming to me and explaining things, it's been a wild ride, definitely.
Well, it sounds absolutely amazing, and I'm sure we haven't heard the half of it, but we have to fast forward then to young Anthony coming onto the planet. And how that was, so because if I remember correctly, and I don't want to say it, I want you to tell me about.
I'll tell you
about this boy here.
I talked to him. I finally talked to Tony, like Anthony, a little bit ago, just about what really happened, because he's old enough now. It's embarrassing. The boyfriend that I had at the time, which is his sperm donor, we'll call him.
Yeah.
I had not had sex, except I'd had the rape happen when I was young, but I hadn't even kissed a boy until I was like 16 and a half. I was very late bloomer. I met his dad and his sperm donor, and we dated for about a year. And then we were at my sister's house, we were babysitting, and something happened. But my pants were down. I'm going to be kind of graphic. Okay. My pants are down. There was no penetration. There's none. Okay. I know whatever he did, but I had no idea what sex was about. I didn't have any idea about anything, ejaculation, nothing of that nature. I think what he did was ejaculated, but on the outside of me.
Yeah.
Now,
okay.
I'll tell you what happened from there. So from there, I was in shock, okay, because I didn't do that kind of thing. I wasn't that kind of girl. So, right away, now we fast forward to a couple months, and we're going to the beach. And I had a bathing suit on, I had, bikini on and everything. I was a pretty skinny girl, and I wasn't feeling good. And I told him, you need to take me to the hospital, And so we go to the emergency room, and they do some testing or whatever, and the doctor comes back and says, you're pregnant. And I passed out, because there's no way I can be pregnant. Okay, I know enough to know you got to do something in order to be pregnant. But I was pregnant. And so that kind of started, a whole other section of my life. I was really upset with him. I didn't want to be anywhere near him. And everything in my body told me to not be near him.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask, what did he say about that? I mean, did he say there's no way it's possible? It must be, without getting saying too much more.
No, that's okay. Well, I'm not worried about that. But yeah, he didn't. I think it was his attitude at the time. Well, like, well, what are you going to do about it? He really. It's not like he was concerned about anything. He was younger than me. He was like 2 years younger than I was, so I don't think he even understood or realized, but the shock of it all on both of our parts, was something. But everything in my body told me to stay away from him. And I did. I wouldn't see him anymore. I said, I'm having the baby on my own. You don't need to be around me. I think he moved out of state. Once his mother found out, she moved him out of state. But I never... To me, that's why I passed out, because there's no way. I'm thinking, how? There's no way. Okay, there's no way. We didn't have sex, as sex is, and I remember it hurt like a son of a gun when that incident happened to me. So I know for sure I didn't have any sex,
Yeah.
So it just always kind of just was sitting in the back of my mind, like, that was weird. Tony must be super strong, because he must have climbed and ran and jumped in, and I don't know how it happened, but I did.
Oh, Tony, it's your fault.
Very determined.
He's athletic, so he's doing some flips and some cartwheels.
Yeah, his little spirits thought of doing all the acrobatics there.
Oh, hell no.
Well, I'm coming in, Mum. Just you watch.
He's like, this is happening. I'm getting bored, I'm
on a schedule, hey.
I got to be here in January.
This needs to happen.
It needs to happen. And it's funny because these were things I never thought about when I was younger. I was very naive as a kid. I didn't think about things like this. I was even very prudish, about sex and everything when I was older. I was prude. Not until not too long ago when we were talking about things and I'm like, well, wait a minute. How did that happen? Because when I came to with the doctor, I said, there's no way that I could be pregnant. There's none. He says, well, you are. I go, okay. And I had the baby, I had him on my own and
almost in a toilet. Oh
my gosh. He was determined. To come out. It's just like, there's no holding him back. But yeah, that was a night because none of my family could be there. They all had colds and it was raining and storming, and I was by myself in a room. And
and were your family supportive? Did you have support there?
Yes, my mother did. Surprisingly, my mother did. She loved she loves my kids. She loves these babies so much. But I did have support in that way. But he was just a good kid, and just the fact that he's around is just astonishing, and then all the times that, that stuff could happen with them. It just, yes, incredible.
How old were you when the sexual assault happened, when the rape happened?
How old was I?
Yeah.
I must have been 11 or 12.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I was just a kid. Yeah, but it was a school counselor.
Yeah, very young.
Very young, and very lucky to have survived it.
Yeah,
literally, because he could have done away with me easily. Yeah, that was an experience. But I've always had, and like you say, the alien connection. I've always looked up. I've always thought It's almost like when I sat there when I was 4 and trying to figure out why my hands do this, why my body looks the way it does, as if I came from somewhere else, not my true body. That's what Tony and I were discussing, because I said I never even thought about that until recently. It's like, why would I question how I look or how I move or what I do? You know,
yeah,
it's,
that's interesting. And also, sorry, again, just to clarify, because I can't remember if you answered this. You know, when you were talking about doing that thing with the hands on the table, your mom's nice table, was that automatic writing that was coming through you? Is that the thing? Because excuse my brain, maybe I just clicked off there.
oh no. Yeah, no, I remember. I don't know if it was or not.
All right.
I always wanted to write.
Please do write your story.
Okay. I can do that.
That's what I'm doing actually right now. I'm writing my life down.
Great. Do you think you can do it for all of you? I mean, you know, just draw everybody in. That's fantastic.
Right?
Yes.
Seriously.
We'll have to.
Yeah, it's so extraordinary, you guys.
Well, I think now that we are super aware, with Tony, okay, the connection to my sons are very strong because I kind of know when they're needing me in some way.
It's so weird.
But I tell him that the moment, I always tell my kids that the moment that I think I woke up, that I became aware, is when he had his back surgery and was convalescent home recovering. And I had been sitting on the couch talking to my sisters about 3 a.m. I sat up and I said, I need to go now, right now. And he's like, where are you going? I'm going to the convalescent home. Well, yeah, but they're closed. I don't care. You know?
Yeah, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh, goodness.
Okay, they're closed. Okay, the convalescent home is closed. I made them open it. I wanted to see my son. And I said, I'm not leaving. I don't care. Call the cops. Doesn't matter what you do. I'm seeing him. I'm coming in. And so finally they came and got me and took me to his room. And literally he was bleeding in his back. There was a gash open in his back. He was bleeding and he was white as a sheet and in so much pain. It was incredible. He could have died that night, but something called me to him and made me go. And I stayed there literally for how many days? I was there.
Well, we were there five days. So you were there pretty much the whole 5 days.
I was there pretty much 5 days, sleeping on the floor until they took care of him, until he was able to get out. So I think that is a big awareness right then, but always a connection to my kids.
She's always done stuff like that. I mean, throughout life, she's always known things like, you know, she'll tell me something like, you don't know what you're talking about. I walk away like, how the heck she know that? Like, how did she, what the heck? What are you talking about? You know, it's like, the heck, she's always done that. Always done that.
Yeah, how magical. How lovely for you guys to have such a fantastic person taking care of you.
Right?
Sometimes, unless I tell them not to go somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, well, listen,
Well,
mums
she
and
did that
mums.
one time. Yeah, she told me I have to go to a party, and this time I was like, I listened to her because I was only like 16, and I'm like, all right, I won't go to this house party. Turned out that house party got shot up that night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna start listening to you more now. But it's just like always stuff like that, you know. I mean, she would just know, just always knew. So it's really hard to get away.
Yeah.
I think for my kids, their intuition about things and about just life in general, I think they are such kind spirits. And I've noticed very much people love my kids, like they want them to be their own, you know.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah, they're just so awesome. But I know, Mike, it's like we've all awakened in a strange way. Like we've all gone through some things together and things separate in our lifetime that was, you know, not good. But we've had an awakening of this sort probably over the last 5 or 6 years.
Actually, one of my first abductions that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
From when? Sorry, Anthony, what did you say?
All of this really started when I told them about my first abduction that I remembered, which was happened 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah. So maybe that's a good segue to here. And for the record, Anthony, would you mind speaking about that again, so we have this for everybody to hear?
Sure. So it happened. My first abduction that I remember completely was about 5 years ago, 2016. It was right before my surgery. I was living in San Jacinto, which is sort of like cow country. So we had a lot of farms around us, and our houses was backed up to a hill, and behind that was just a bunch of more hills and mountains and stuff like that. So there's really nothing behind us. Very quiet neighborhood. You could hear the cows mooing miles away, like it was just crazy. So one night I was in my living room with my daughter, and we were watching TV. I had the window open. It was a nice night, and all of a sudden, this white, just solid white light. Now it literally cut through my light, you know, like it just overpowered, and it looked like a solid beam, and it scanned the room looking like it was looking for us, and then it hit me and Kaylee, my daughter, and she was 1.5 at the time, and she's sitting on my lap, and we're now engulfed in this bright white light, and it goes off of us and then comes back to us, and then it literally draws out, like you can see the light draw. Like it just doesn't shut off like our light. It just draws back. It was like, what the heck was that? You know, and Kayla was all looking at me like, what was that, Daddy? You know, like it was like, whoa. And we run to the window, which is literally right next to me. I get up, I look out. I had the window open. You hear nothing. Like no helicopter, no nothing. It was just silent. You can literally hear dimes dropping if you did out in the street. That's how quiet it is on that street. So that was like, okay, that was crazy. So I called them up. I'm like, okay, you're not gonna even believe this, because you know, and they're like, what, you know? And then about 3-4 days later is when I met them. So it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was putting Kaylee down for a nap, and I go to my room, so I'm gonna take a nap myself, and I have the monitor on my dresser, and I'm on my bed. So I put the monitor, it's all right there. I check it. It's like 3:05 when I'm checking it. And I look over, and, you know, I put my phone there and everything, and I'm just getting everything ready and set up. And I look at the monitor again and make sure she's good. And it's like 3:09. And I'm like, okay. So I just lay down and I'm resting, and I'm looking at my phone, and all of a sudden I just start hearing that high pitched noise, this ringing. And I'm like, oh, I know what this is, because this happens to me all the time. And all of a sudden my body starts to vibrate, the pins, the needles, and then the high pitch just gets really, really high, and then it goes, and then all of a sudden my body just goes numb and paralyzed. So I can't move, I can't open my eyes, I can't do anything. So now I feel I'm being lifted, okay? So in that part, that's when I usually fight it, and I'm always, you know, fighting it, and I'm like, and I don't remember, and I'll wake up like hours later or the next morning, I'm like, I hate when that happens. It's sleep paralysis. That's what everybody says, sleep paralysis. But mine happens before I go to sleep, but whatever. So this time I just say, you know what, I'm going with it. I'm gonna go with it. I'm just gonna see what happens, and I'm not gonna fight it, and I'm just gonna you know, let it happen.
Yeah.
And I started to rise up off the bed, and it felt like a couple inches. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And I start to slide, and I'm sliding towards the foot of my bed. And I'm thinking I'm going to fall off my bed, like, because it feels like something's pulling me. Okay, I don't feel any fingers or anything. I just feel something pulling me, but I'm levitating off the bed. And I'm sliding, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to fall off the bed. And nope, I'm just going. Now I'm going fast. And I'm like, whoa, you know, and I'm trying to open my eyes, and I can't. And I'm going even faster now, to where it takes away my stomach. So I'm just freaking out now. I'm like, whoa, you know, like, what was that? And now I feel this speed. I'm just going so fast. And my eyes, instead of opening up how you open up your lids, it's more like a tunnel, like a pin light, and then it got bigger. Like everything just started opening up. Like it was like sort of like a pin in my eyelids, and then it just sort of opened up. And now I'm in space. And I'm flying through space, just hauling ass and seeing stars and colors and just amazing colors. And I'm just like looking around, and I'm just in awe. And it stops me at this planet. Now this planet is green, has like a green glow to it. It had zebra pattern, weather pattern. Like the clouds were zebra shaped. Okay, so and the underneath the clouds, you can see the land, and it was sort of like violets and greens, and it was just way different than what you would see on Earth. You know, it was a different type of darker, deeper green and purples, and it just really just alien looking. It was just amazing. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful planet. And I'm sort of floating under it, and I'm looking up at this planet turning, and I'm just, you know, just taking it all in, you know. I'm hearing statics, and I'm hearing, because it's very peaceful, but it's also very noisy, and you can hear like statics and noises and stuff like that. It's so weird, and frequencies and stuff.
Can I ask you about the light quality there? Did it look like it was illuminated by any, you know, what we might attribute to our sun, Was there anything like that?
I didn't see a sun or anything. I mean, I'm just sort of right in front of this massive planet.
But it was it was very light, was it? I guess I want to know if
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
light.
oh yeah, it was all lit up. Yeah, I mean, it was. I could see directly down to the ground. It was just very just surreal, you know. And I still remember to this day. I mean, it's just this. None of these experiences I have forgotten. It's just everything is just so fresh in my mind still. So now I'm floating underneath it, and I look down, and this wormhole opens up. It's like a vortex, just opens up, and I just slide, and I just dive into this thing, and I'm going even faster than before now. Now this is like warp speed type of stuff, but it's colors. You don't see just the white lights. It's colors, and I'm going, and this tube is translucent, and it's spiraling clockwise, and you can see it, everything around you, but you see like this sort of like a surge of power just sort of spiraling, and you're just sliding down this tube. And I'm looking, and I see other tubes, other wormholes, I guess, and it looks like a highway system. And they're all going, and they're going down, they're going up, and they're curving, and it's just the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. And I see you start to go up, and I can see, because it's all translucent, you can see this wormhole, and you're following it, you're like, and you see everything, and I see this massive white light. It's coming out of like kind of cosmic clouds type stuff, and it's just this beautiful white, that kind of white light that engulfed us in the house. But it was something, that kind of brightness, and it was just so solid and bright, and all the tubes were going into this hole, or white hole. And I was just like, at that moment, I felt that I was going too far. And all I remember was, I even said, like, my daughter's home alone. I'm the only, I'm there alone with her. I can't be off in the universe right now. You know, I need to go back home and watch my daughter, you know. And at that moment, that instant, I was pulled. And I remember just stopping and then just being pulled back. And then you have that falling feeling into your body. So I'm like, okay, so I land in my body. I'm like, oh, you know, and all of a sudden I'm able to move now. The pins and needles are going away, the numbness. So I open my eyes up, and I'm looking at my phone, the same position that I started in. And my phone's propped up on the pillow. And I see in the reflection, because I have a big old Note phone, so it's huge. And I see in the reflection something standing behind me. So you do that slow turn, you know, just sort of, you know, looking. And next to me is a massive insectoid. This being, it stood at least to my curtains, the curtain rods, the top of the curtain rods, but it was hunched over looking down at me. So I'm thinking at least 10 feet.
Oh, okay, that's tall.
I mean, it was a massive being. And I'm just, so I turn around and I'm looking at this, and I'm just staring at his face and staring at the body, and it's wearing clothes. It was wearing a suit, and his suit was a pyramid, like an upside down pyramid, and it went off the shoulders, really long, like wide, and then went down to the crotch area, like a pyramid, and it was a silverish, kind of greenish, metallic, shimmery kind of material. Didn't look like our kind of material at all. It had like a little shimmer to it. He had a emblem, a circle, but I can't remember what was in it. But the eyes and the face was just, I was staring at it. I couldn't stop staring at it, you know. And I'm looking at it, and it had teardrop eyes. So it went up like a teardrop, and it went sort of up this way. But because the face was very thin, it wasn't a wide face. It was just a very thin face with the teardrop eyeballs. And it really looked more like a grasshopper than anything. I know that people talk about mantis beings and stuff, and this one looked more like a grasshopper. It had tentacles hung from the mouth area, and they were just sort of moving around. So that was very distracting to see these things moving around. And I was just like, you know, oh my gosh, you know. But I never had any kind of fear of it, which is crazy, because, you know, who's not going to be afraid of a massive insect, you know, looking at you? I mean, like, I would think anybody would be afraid, but I didn't have that kind of fear at all. It was more like I was glad to see it, and I missed it. Like I've been waiting. I remember saying about time. You're back, or you're here. Like it was just sort of a relief that I'm finally seeing you again type. It clicked his head, to the right when I sort of thought that in my head. So it felt like it can hear me. I started getting up because I wanted to greet it, and make some coffee, like have a conversation, that's what I was planning on doing, and it didn't like that. It actually, I saw an arm when I started getting up. I looked at it, and the arms just sort of appeared out of his suit, long fingers, and it put his finger right on my forehead, just right here. And I felt pressure, and that's it. I was out. I woke up hanging off the bed, just the way I remember it. I'm hanging off the bed now. I'm like, okay, what happened? That was just the craziest thing I've ever experienced, and I'm trying to figure it out. I look at the clock, just check on Kaylee, and it was like 3:19, 3:20, around there. So about 10 minutes has gone by.
Yeah. And you had full memory of seeing
Full memory.
that amazing being.
Full memory. And that's not even, they came a couple days after that. Yeah. So it was about 11 o'clock p.m. I was in the bedroom and I was ready to go to sleep. I had my dog next to me, and he starts just tripping. And he's just all like, looking around and like, getting all sketchy. And I'm like, okay, what's wrong? And I hear something out in my window in my room. And I'm like, what the heck? It's in our backyard too. And we had gates and stuff. And so I'm like, what's out there? So he's like growling, and he's like, jumping back and like trying to sniff, and, just all sketchy. And I'm like, what's wrong? And I go, and I start walking towards the window, and I hear this clicking sound, this like that, exactly like that. But it was loud. Came from high, and it was just crisp sounds, just so crisp. And I was like, I ran to the window. I'm all looking, nothing. It was gone. I was like, what was that? It was just the craziest sound I've ever heard. And then actually, right after that was Mother's Day, and is when I saw the orb. I think it's their ship. Like, it was sort of telling me bye, because it was Mother's Day, and we're sitting out there on the swing, and I'm with Kaylee, and I'm sending a Mother's Day text and stuff, and she's telling me, look, what's that? And I look, I'm like, and I look, and right above our house is this massive kind of beach ball size orb. Now it had no bottom, so it looked more like a jellyfish or like a Pac-Man ghost. It had it was like the bottom was sort of a
wavy, serrated.
Huh?
A bit wavy or serrated.
Sort of like, I can't even explain it. It was the way I was looking at it. It was just sort of cut off, but you can sort of, it was all translucent, but the light, it was throwing off 3 different lights, and the whole orb glowed a golden color. And remember, this is during the day. This is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just going on looked like it was going on a rail, and it was just so smooth and so steady, about 10, 13 feet off my roof. So it was very low. It was lower than the street lights. So it's going, and I'm looking at this thing, and it's glowing, and then it has 2 lights inside of it, like 2 floating lights. And it was a red one and a white one. And the white one would build up, and it would get bright, and then boom, and just like a flash, and this is the middle of the day, and it was just this crazy bright flash, like it was taking a picture of us, And then the red light was just pulsating. While that was building up and flashing, that red light was just pulsating. So it was just a lot going on. And I'm sitting there, and I have my phone in my hands. I'm just like looking at this thing, just trying to I didn't want to take my eyes off it, because I just felt like it was, and sure enough, I looked down, I'm like trying to get my camera on, and it just gone.
Yeah. Wow. And didn't you say also that little Kaylee is aware of things?
Oh yeah, she's told me so many things. When all this stuff was happening during the first abduction, she was telling me that she would see Spider-Man in her closet. She loves Spider-Man, which I was never really. I didn't have a lot of Spider-Man stuff around or anything, and she never really knew what Spider-Man was. And she saw it one day at the store and she just loved it. Like, loved the whole Spider-Man look. And everything after that was just Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. And it never really occurred to me that this thing sort of has eyes like Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
black, you know, and she would tell me all the time about having Spider-Man in her closet, and you know, and tell me about her dreams. She would always tell me, you know, insect, you know, big insects. She loves insects. She loves praying mantises, especially. I mean, her mom would tell me that she would go outside in her backyard and she'd pick up a praying mantis and just pick it up and be all like, "Look, Mom, it's my friend," you know, and she was like, "Oh, that's so cute." She thinks that's her friend, but you know, now that she knows everything, she's like, that makes so much sense now, because she was telling me, like, this is my friend. They're not gonna hurt me, you know. And she's like explaining to her, like, you know, don't be afraid of them, you know. And Marissa's like, that's weird, you know. Like, why would I be afraid of an insect? You know, the way she was telling me, she goes, I really understand it now, because the way, you know, she was like, these are my friends, like, don't be afraid.
You know what?
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? Beautiful.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something because I just remembered a couple things, two things. The praying mantis, I had never seen a praying mantis for like so many years. And I had gone to the backyard and I was kind of watering, and it's as if something called me to look at a branch on one of the, because I have a lot of plants back there, on a particular branch. And there was a praying mantis hanging on to the branch, but looking at me. And I was like, hi, you know, because it's like I talk to the plants even, okay? I talk to
no, listen, I do. I really do.
And I thought that was so amazing, because like out of all these branches of all these things back there, how did I know to zero in on him? You know what I mean? It's like he just sat there looking at me for the longest time. And I just thought that was super cool. And then the other thing, before you talk to my other son, is that I go to a place quite often. I used to think it was a dream, but I don't believe it's a dream. I believe I'm actually going there, where I will say to myself, I need to go. It's almost to recharge, to replenish. And this place, I actually fly, I take flight, and I land on, it's like waterfalls, tons of waterfalls, but there are 3 moons, like 1, 2, 3 moons there, and a blue glowing tint. And I sit at the edge, right on where the waterfall, all the water's falling. And there are other people there that sit in other areas. And I just never understood that, but it's someplace I do go from time to time throughout my life.
Oh, it would be nice to know which planet that is, wouldn't it?
Right?
Wouldn't it? That would be so cool.
Yeah, well, maybe you could ask.
I know, next time I'll go. But all my sons, you know, Tony's had these amazing experiences, and Aaron, his brother, has some that he's going to tell you about as well. That's crazy. It's as if the family has different ways of communicating. My other son,
exciting.
Adam, you told her about Adam being, because Adam lucid dreams.
Yeah, he's always lucid dreaming.
My middle son lucid dreams, so he knows when he's in a dream and can control the dreams.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then you haven't met, well, you only met Aaron for a minute.
No,
but
hello, Aaron. We're not forgetting about you.
No,
Now.
I'll be honest, my experiences are not as great as my mother's, my brother's, you know. But yeah, kind of dating back to, you know, I'm sure I don't know if you've astral projected before, or I'm sure you've had many.
I haven't myself, you know. I've always had a resistance to the sleep paralysis, and they say that's a precursor. For some reason, I can't do what you did, Tony. I can't seem to let it go. I just have to fight. I don't know why. I don't seem to have it anymore. They've probably given up on me.
So first experience was probably back when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. And so I remember to this day, and kind of like the experiences my brother and my mother had. I remember going to sleep at night. It was like, it was Saturday night. We were swimming at my aunt's house all day, and we go to bed that night. And again, I remember it vividly to this day, kind of like my brother experienced, kind of going through like a wormhole. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Stargate.
Yeah.
With Kurt Russell. Remember when they walked through the Stargate? Everything kind of like that. It was just like that. And I remember to this day just looking at colors that I can't even explain. You know, you think, you know, me being 43 years old, living life for 43 years, You think we've seen a single color just by living life, but no, I mean, it's just the most amazing looking colors, and just flying through this, and like it's the most amazing feeling. There's really nothing much more after that. I remember kind of waking up in the morning, but when I woke up, I was paralyzed. I couldn't move whatsoever, and I'm yelling and screaming for my mom, my brothers, and they're like, "Oh, you'll be fine." You know, nobody knew what it was. You know, we're just.
Aaron, you could actually speak and see, but you couldn't move. Is that right?
I couldn't move. Yeah, I did wake up, so I was laying on my back, and I woke up, but I couldn't move my body. But I could still speak, but I couldn't move. And you know, my mom was trying to tell me, it's probably from just the swimming you did yesterday. Your body's just drained, but I've never experienced that ever in my life. So that was kind of like one of my first experiences ever. And then fast forward years later, like maybe in my teens, 15 or 16, we kind of grew up going to church. My father, he was very religious. Got my mom into church, and then we started going to church. But I'll be honest, like me and my brothers, we never really paid attention. It just wasn't for us, And
fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not talking smack on anybody's religion or anything. It's just even before we got into the whole extraterrestrial aliens, because right now we're all believer. I don't even call it believers because we've all experienced and seen things. So we know what's out there. But even before all that, like I said, back when I was 16 years old, 15 years old, I remember telling myself, we were created by aliens. And mind you, back then, at our young age, we knew nothing, right? We knew nothing about extraterrestrials, right? We just see it in movies, but nothing to at the level that we're at now. But I remember being so young and just thinking to myself one day, we were created by aliens. There's no way we all came from Adam and Eve. Just two people. It just didn't make sense to me. But something deep down inside just told me I think we were created by extraterrestrials. I've always thought that in my head, and then I actually had arguments with my mom, because back when she was kind of in the religious age, like, no, we were created by God. I'm like, okay, mom, and I just kind of always thought that. And then, fast forward, till now, all the experiences my brother had, now me and my brothers, we're all into it because, we've seen, like I said, we've all seen things. One of the experiences I had was here in Fullerton, where we live, seeing 3 orange orbs up in the sky. I remember walking out of Target across the street, and people were looking up, and I look up, I'm like, whoa.
About what, 14 years ago?
Maybe, maybe, yeah.
Were they big, Aaron? Were they large?
They were, they were pretty large, and they weren't that really high up in the sky, but the way, and when people think, oh, you must have saw a helicopter, I'm like, I know what a helicopter looks like.
Well, a helicopter flew around it.
Yeah, helicopter, yeah, you're right. But there was 3 orbs, so, sorry, I don't have a third hand, but they were all like orbiting like this. Like, just imagine another
going
one.
Together.
Just going together.
Now, help out there, Tony. Get all the hands going.
And I remember calling my brother, I'm like, look outside. So I remember, these 3, and it was like a sunburst color. So it wasn't like red, it wasn't yellow. It looked like it was like on fire. It was just weird. And then eventually one of them went like this and disappeared. And the other 2 were over. Now we got it working. And then the other one went like this, disappeared. And the last one, just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And we were just like so in awe, and just I think that's kind of like when we kind of started really, really kind of following, UFOs and going online and going YouTube and all that stuff. And we've always been fascinated by it. We're not scared of it whatsoever. You know what I mean? Like if we look outside right now and see a mothership, we're gonna be like, finally. I feel like the majority of people are gonna be running, screaming, crying, going crazy, and we're like,
I told you.
Because like I said, we don't feel like
we're from here.
We really don't. We don't. We see people walking around, just living life so blindly, just oblivious to everything that's happening in the world. We just see life in a different way.
Yeah. I have to say, I feel a bit like that myself. Really, I do. I really feel like I'm not from here. Around at these humans, really.
No, and you're exactly. And we right now, I feel like Earth is just a pit stop. I feel like our souls or energy are going to eventually move on once we transition out of here and go somewhere else. But I feel like this is just kind of like a pit stop right now, and
Yeah,
we're
boot camp.
for this short time. But you know, we really, that's how we've been. That's what we've always felt like. And you know, again, like I said, I haven't had too many experiences. I've astral projected recently, maybe 3 months ago, and this one was really cool. So I was living with my ex-girlfriend about 30 minutes away, and my niece was down here. Well, Anthony's daughter, Jenny, his older niece. You know, she's 26 now. Huh?
Older daughter, yeah.
Oh yeah, older daughter, and
Older
she.
daughter,
Yeah, and then they're staying here because they're getting ready to move to Texas, so they're staying here for a couple weeks. So I remember I'm at my ex-girlfriend's house, and I'm laying down. And the times I've astral projected, there's been like twice where I've actually done it because I actually closed my eyes and just thought about it and meditated and it happened. But there's been a couple times where it just happened without me even trying. It was very weird. But I knew it was happening. I just closed my eyes and kind of feel my body start vibrating. I'm like, oh, it's happening. I'm thinking in my head, it's happening. Like, calm down, Aaron, calm down. I don't want to like jump back in my body and wake up. But I remember, so I started, you know, I know you haven't astral projected, but that feeling of just kind of like your body just kind of goes down and just kind of goes up like this. And I knew it was happening. And the second I knew it was happening, I'm like, I want to go see my niece. So I'm very, very close to my nieces. And so I come in, I'm here in this place. And I'm in my brother's room, and my niece and her daughter is sleeping. And I can see my niece's daughter, Emma, she's wearing pink. I can't, like when you astral project, you don't really see like as if we're seeing right now, just everything so clearly and so vivid. It's to me, it's kind of a little bit distorted maybe, so it's not as clear as we can see right now. But I can see my niece rolling around and her daughter like kind of rolling around, and she's wearing pink. And then I'm like, okay, I'm like, I can see my nieces. I want to go see what my brother's doing. So I come out here to the living room, and my brother is on the floor, laying down on the floor. And then my mom was in there, but I didn't see her for some reason. So I'm like, this is so cool. So I go outside. I'm like, I want to go see my girlfriend's up to. You know, she worked at Home Depot at the time, and I knew, you know, where she worked. So I'm just kind of floating, and I'm like trying to get to her. But then all of a sudden, I just see just all this red come at me. All this red. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of freaking me out. And it wouldn't let me get to her for some reason. So I see all this red, and then in my head I said, you know what, I'm gonna come back to you right now. Then I even counted. I remember this so clearly. I counted in my head. I said 3, 2, 1, and I opened up my eyes just like that, you know. But it wasn't. And again, I know what the difference between a dream, sleeping is. And
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
I opened my eyes. It's not like opening my eyes like slowly, like no. I did it like just like that, and I'm like, oh, that was so cool. And I called them. I came down the next day, and I said, Jen, I was here. I saw you and Emma. I said, she was wearing pink. She's like, oh my God, yeah, she was wearing pink. And so my brother, you're out here on the couch, but you weren't laying on the couch, you were laying on the floor. And you said, yeah, my back was hurting. Yeah. So I was laying on the floor. I'm like, hey,
yeah. He literally told us exactly where we were. I was like, I don't lay on the floor much. I mean, my back was hurting, you know. It was like at that time, I'm on the floor. Weird.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and you know, with the red, what did you think with the red might be, or have you not thought about that?
I have thought about it. I don't know. Because I've had another experience. It was a quick astral projection. I was here, and I remember being on the couch, and my brother was in the room watching TV, and he always has his TV on loud. And I'm just laying on the couch. I wasn't trying to AP. I was just laying on the couch, but I was just relaxed. And again, I can feel my body vibrate, and I feel my body kind of sink down on the couch and then float up. Also, it's daytime, by the way. And I'm floating up to the sky, trying to get to space, trying to just get anywhere. But as I'm going, I clearly hear this voice in my head, but it also sounded like somebody was whispering in my ear, and it was not pleasant. Not a pleasant voice. I couldn't make out what they were saying. It just sounded evil. My interpretation of it, maybe it wasn't, but it did not sound pleasant. I remember saying, oh, screw this. And I came back down to my body, and I woke up. But I remember just the feeling of, again, flying up in the air. But that voice was weird. Like, it sounded like somebody was whispering in my ear, but I can also hear it in my head at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's
That's
very
very
weird.
interesting.
With the red, I don't know. I don't know what the red meant. Like when the red was kind of just, I could start seeing red coming at me, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I decided, I'm going
Did
to
it
wake
feel
up.
like it was blocking you? Did it feel like it
Yeah,
might have an
yeah,
emotional element to it?
Maybe but you're right. It did feel like it was blocking me from getting to where I was going.
Yeah.
So I had no problem getting here, like when I saw my family. But when I left, it was really weird. I can't explain it, but I felt like it was blocking me from where I was trying to go. So I just did my countdown to 3, and I just woke up just like that.
Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa, that was cool."
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? All these different links, and although Adam's not here, it sounds like he's just as plugged in as you guys are, that you can speak about it together. I think that's fantastic, because a lot of people, really do feel isolated and, quite marginalized and alone. And I've spoken to a lot of people who've lost relationships, families, and moms, dad, parents, businesses. So I hope that your musician relatives and your cousin will perhaps come on and do another session with you all. We'll do a round table.
Yeah, she has a lot of stories. I've only heard one, which was amazing. Yeah, her and her family have a lot of stories. So
we're dying to hear it ourselves.
Yeah, we're dying to hear it ourselves.
Well, maybe we could make it a bit of a plan.
I think so.
This cousin of ours, we haven't known him for our entire lives. We're not really close at all because we barely kind of just met,
We
5
did.
years ago.
Yeah, you did mention that, didn't you, Anthony, before, that there's a whole nother layer of your family that you've just got to know over the last, I don't know, is it 5 years or less?
Yeah, everything literally happened around the same time I was taken first. That I remember. So everything just sort of fell into place at that time.
Because we always try to pinpoint, when did it happen? Wake up. When did this all happen? And we all start talking about it in this way. I mean, we've talked about incidents of different things, but never to this extent. We report to each other the minute something new has happened. I mean, I remember when Tony was talking about, slipping out of his body. And I said, I want to try that. And I literally did that. I was laying in my bedroom during the day, and it was only me here. And I had the blankets over me, and I said, I'm going to do this, and it was quiet, and I just start meditating, and all of a sudden I could see the blanket is coming up over my head, and I freaked out. I pulled it down because I'm thinking, number one, how can I see that? Because my eyes are closed, and I knew I'd close my eyes to try to concentrate, and so I know it's so possible. I would love to call up an experience like that, like be able to just connected that.
Yeah, and it would be really interesting, Anthony, to know what planet that you were looking at. And is it even in this dimension? Is it in a parallel universe? Is it in this one? Because who knows? Nothing has to be linear. Nothing has to be in this dimension, does it?
I mean, I know they're little by little they're showing me things, and I've had a lot of experiences that is sort of guided me into the way of thinking and what's going on with me. I feel that so in my research of the mantis beings and stuff, their main technology is in soul power. They control it, which is, if you think about it, it's really not hard. It's energy. If you're able to control energy and manipulate energy, then that's pretty much what the soul is. So this is they're experimenting with us. I feel that they're able to track souls, and so our souls are not just from Earth; they're from everywhere in the universe. So there's souls from different beings. So you could one lifetime been a different being on another planet. And this is where I think a lot of it comes into where, like, people, how you say they're bad seeds, and they're born evil and stuff like that. Well, I truly think that they're probably just remembering their last life, and they're maybe some kind of creature that just did what they did. Like, who knows? Because you got people who, like the we call it the transsexuals and stuff, and people who identify transgenders, who identify themselves as female or male. In my belief, I feel that they're remembering their past life. They're remembering how they were, and they liked it. And, they like being a male.
Therapist, and I've had a couple of folks come to me, and one guy was having this recurring nightmare of his planet blowing up, and the only way he could survive was to come into human incarnation because the planet had gone, and he had been a gray before. Now, a lot of people say, oh, those guys are just robotoids or whatever, but maybe some of them are, maybe some of them are clones and that kind of thing without a soul. But I think there's a level of being of that look. And we're not taught anything, are we? Has some normality, has some frequency to it that is based in a reality.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I mean, this is why, I mean, we appreciate you because the fact that we could even, I've never really told my story to anybody except for my kids.
We can't.
you
We
know.
can't. That's the
We
problem. Is we have people that we can talk to, and they just kind of look at us weird, and we don't like those kind of people. I'm sorry, just, we don't deal with that kind of. And to be honest, like even our own, we have cousins and my mom's sister. They're not really believers in everything that we believe in, so we can't even talk to our own family about this because.
So it's good we have each other.
Yeah,
We have to.
So
yeah, it's a
we're
good
fine with talking with each other, and it's great talking to you. You know, you're not giving us any weird looks,
You're
obviously.
amazing.
So,
Certainly not. No, not at all. You know, you've heard some of the things I've heard. You.
But let me what I was getting to. I had a lucid dream, and in my dream, I remember my brother. He's very good at my other brother. He's very good at lucid dreaming. He's always lucid dreaming. So he always tells me, "Go look in the mirror." When you go look in the mirror in your dream, he goes, you see yourself as young. Because I always look in the mirror and I see myself young. And I'm like, wow, I never really thought of that in your dream, you know. And I said, okay, I'll remember that next time I lose a dream because I don't do it a lot. You know, I do it once in a while and stuff. So at this point, I was dreaming and I remember I'm in a room and I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming. All right, I'm dreaming now. I know I'm dreaming and I'm going to go look in the mirror. So I walk into this room and I go into a mirror. And when I look in the mirror, thinking I'm going to see my younger self, I saw a mantis beam.
Oh, did you?
Staring back at me with red eyes. Yeah,
That's great.
and it was me. It was me. So I took from that my soul is actually of these mantis beings. And in my research that I've been researching for 5 years now, I mean, just nonstop, Linda Moulton Howe actually did a study back in the 60s, and it had, I think it was like 5 people that she did, and they all talked about how these beings are able to track their souls, and they keep track of their own souls, and they drop by and visit, and they guide you in this life. And that's the guiding force that we have. And they just sort of keep track of their special souls. For whatever reason, I don't know yet, but everything sort of made sense when I had that kind of vision.
I mean, we can only go so far because our minds are,
Seeing things in a prism. Yeah, absolutely. That's prism, not prison.
Yes, it is in a prism. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So to talk to you, Deborah, on the music side, because what I did was, I think I sent Anthony a link to Eclectia, the album, and I adore music. I'm not a musician, I'm not a singer or anything. If I could, I would be a singer. I'd love to do that, but I'm not. A 2-album CD of people from America, Canada, and England recording. So they're all experiences of one thing or another. One guy in Canada, his whole band was taken in the 70s. He remembers that experience.
Wow.
And some amazing people. And most of the guys give a 1 minute to 1.5 minute soundbite of the kernel of their experience. And then you hear their song. So we've got some amazing people on the album, like Merrill Fankhauser from the 60s surf rock king.
Oh, cool.
I know, really, it's very cool. Can I just ask, you mentioned where you located there, but I didn't quite hear it.
We're Fullerton, California, so we're right next to Disneyland.
Oh, okay. All righty. Okay. Yeah. Listen, guys, thank you very much. And big hug to you all, and look forward to doing this again. And when I get on my road trip over in the States, which is slated, definitely we have to do an on-the-road interview with you guys. That'd be so fun. That'd be great. So lots of love to you guys. Thank you very much for your time. Really super appreciate it.
Love
Thank
that.
you. God bless. Take care.
Anyway.